It is about 2:30 a.m. on Thursday in Egypt, but people are wide awake in Cairo's Tahrir Square. Fires ignited by Molotov cocktails have been burning in the place that's been a central base for anti-government protesters. Supporters of President Hosni Mubarak are involved in violent clashes with the protesters.
The army is nowhere to be seen at the moment.
Street battles between the two sides raged for most of the day on Wednesday. The health ministry says 3 people were killed and more than 600 wounded. The country's military appears to be doing little or nothing to stop the violence. Our CNN reporters were right in the middle of it all. Brooke Baldwin chronicles their harrowing day in the midst of a now dangerous uprising.
These guys on horses. Do you see the horses?
Cairo's Tahrir Square again in upheaval. Government supporters and protesters attacking each other with anything they could get their hands on. Egyptian army tanks meant to separate them overrun. The military standing by. CNN's Ben Wiedemann and his crew captured the images of Egyptians turning on one another, fueled by their own passions for their future of their country.
It certainly comes as no surprise that there are so many people who have been wounded in these clashes. We were right in the middle of it, and there's just rocks flowing, flying in every single direction, pieces of metal, sticks, whatever anybody could pick up, they were throwing.
Just outside the square, CNN's Hala Garani was making her way in.
Because I was just shoved out of the way there. This was just a completely surreal experience.
Trying to assess the tension level in what began as a relatively quiet morning. It didn't take very long to get an answer.
Out of nowhere, it seemed, demonstrators on camelback and horseback started charging in. At that point, there was a rush of people in the other direction. I got caught in it. I got slammed against the gate and was threatened by one of the pro-Mubarak protesters.
This is a little chaotic. I have someone helping me out here.
This as the military stood by in most cases, even at the museum where CNN's Anderson Cooper witnessed the fight where the front lines are being constantly redrawn.
You see the large crowd of pro-Mubarak supporters are now trying to reestablish their front line in the area where the overturned military vehicles are. That was the front line up until about 5 or 10 minutes ago when they overturned those vehicles and started to push forward. So again, it's this ebb and flow back and forth. That's the area that we were down in earlier when we got attacked, punched around. My cameraman Neil Hallsworth, my producer Marianne Fox, punched and kicked for about 5 minutes as we retreated quickly from the square to seek safety in the building we're in now.
Just 5 to 10 minutes away, out of the range of our TV cameras, there were reports of more peaceful protests. But that wasn't evident here, where the sights of Molotov cocktails and a fire at the museum indicated the fight would continue well into the night.
Some in Egypt say that they are not supporting either side. They're calling themselves pro-Egypt and say President Mubarak should be given the opportunity to finish his job in office. Jim Clancy talked to one of those Egyptians.
I'd be worried if the president packed up and left due to the request of 50,000 people. Sir, 84 million is a larger voice that I need to address certain mechanisms, certain institutions, and put amendments in the Constitution into action and reconstruct the government and reshuffle ministers won't happen over day and night. People must understand this is a big change.
Waleed, do you think that the Western news media, Al Jazeera for that matter, that all the journalists get excited by seeing revolution and change in the streets, throw their weight behind it, but at the end of the day, it's not their country, is it?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Not only that, Cairo, Tahrir Square is the size of a football stadium. I really wish that they could swing their cameras, all of the international media, including CNN. There are 29 other governorates on state-run TV that show peaceful protests. Islamic scholars standing next to Coptic priests, standing next to doctors and children and women, all protesting peacefully and asking for quiet and peaceful and long-lasting change. There are 29 governors, sir, in Egypt. I don't understand why the whole international media is focused on a geographic area around about half a kilometer by half a kilometer.
Let's go to Cairo now and talk with Ivan Watson. Ivan, I think, one of the big things about the last 24 hours or so, obviously, is the emergence of these pro-Mubarak elements. Beforehand, there didn't seem to be many of them, if any. Where did they suddenly appear from?
Well, perhaps they were caught off guard or by more than a week of anti-Mubarak demonstrations. Perhaps there were people who just really had enough of their president being criticized day after day. And it does seem like there must have been some kind of organizational structure that moved people out into the streets in such large numbers as well. We were hearing rumors that some of the demonstrators were ordered to come out or paid to come out. These are unconfirmed, of course. But some of the demonstrators, in fact, were kind of moderates who had been out demonstrating against Mubarak at the beginning of this week, more than a week of protests, who then told me that after Mubarak said he would step down at the end of his term and not run for re-election, that those were enough concessions and they were now going to step out and support their president. But there was clearly a hardline group that was spoiling for a fight, and that's what we've seen. Let's take a look at some of these nighttime videos that we shot recently, Anjali, that give you a sense of how tense the situation has remained beyond the daylight hours. These nighttime videos will show you that the wounded were still streaming in. If we can show these nighttime videos, that the wounded were still streaming in from the front lines where the barricades had been erected, that Molotov cocktails were being thrown in some cases, gunfire, bursts of gunfire. We don't know where they came from, going off in the vicinity of Tahrir Square. I've been listening to a man on a loudspeaker who has been kind of calling out orders to the opposition protesters from here inside Tahrir Square. And he's been yelling words like jihad, jihad, be prepared for your martyrdom, basically preparing these opposition demonstrators to really fight to the death to defend this patch of territory in central Cairo. Anjali?
How does this increasing violence impact on the already tenuous rule of President Mubarak?
Well, we've definitely gone from a week of, for the most part, political confrontation, though there had been clashes between riot police and the demonstrators, certainly culminating on Friday. And now we've moved into a new phase that's a bit harder to perhaps characterize.